Welcome to another episode of Make Mental Health Matter, where I talk to guests who are, well, on Mondays, I talk to guests who are either professionals or advocates in the mental health space. And then on Wednesdays, I talk to guests who have a story to share. They're sharing their warrior story, whatever they have been through in this thing that we call life, and hopefully giving you the opportunity to identify yourself in any aspect of their story and ultimately knowing that there is hope. There's hope into the future, and you can get through whatever you have gone through, what you're going through, and what you may go through. If this is your first time watching, make sure if you're on YouTube that you click down that subscribe button. If you're on any of the streaming platforms like E360 TV, Roku, Apple Fire, Amazon, whatever it is, make sure you add this into your favorites, your wish list, your watch list, whatever it's called, so that you don't miss another episode. And I say it every single episode, but I promise you, every guest that I bring on is incredible, and you do not want to miss their story. I go live every single Monday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So without further ado, I'm very excited for my guest today. We are new friends this year, but incredible human, and let me bring her up. Callie, thank you so much for joining me.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your story.
Yes. Hi. So I'm Caley Rose. I like to spell it in case anyone's just listening. Caley, roses in the flower. And you can hear that rhythm because I'm a musician. I am a Billboard charting singer and songwriter, and I'm also the creator of Music with a Message, which brings confidence tools into schools to help kids who have been bullied.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like so clear and concise. I love it.
I've learned.
Right. So what really got you into wanting to do this specifically?
Yeah, I've always been a singer, and professionally for the past 5 years. And then a year and a half ago, I woke up and was thinking about how I was bullied and was like, I should probably do something about that. Because for years, I've been saying the mission with my music was to help people feel like they're not alone. But I was kind of thinking of adults, and I'm not making kids music, but I am making music that appeals to both adults and kids because it's empowering and it's confident. And so I was like, I already have the music, so I should probably just start speaking in schools too. And so I started sharing my story of being bullied when I was 10 and how it affected my confidence. It took my confidence from here all the way down to a 0. And then I had to work on my own to build up my own confidence because I thought it was something you either had or you didn't have. I didn't think it was something that you could learn, but I really wanted to learn it because I wanted to be a happier, healthier person who liked myself. Self-love was very far off for me because I didn't even like myself. And then I started working, got every book, got every podcast, got into therapy, and figured out my own little method. So now I have my method to building up your own confidence. Because when I was a kid, people would say, be confident, love yourself. And I was just like, how? Please, someone show me the path. I would love to be on it. And so I have tangible tools to help keep kids build their confidence after being bullied.
That's amazing. And I mean, it's something that continues to draw me back also. It's that middle school, it's like elementary, middle school range, because oftentimes that's where bullying is across the board, but really it starts around those ages. And it's that age, especially going into 11, 12, 13, that all the hormones and everything else physically and internally is happening. And then all this external pressure is happening also. Yeah. And so I think that's really important that you are hyper-focused on adolescence and realizing, I know you and I have talked a lot, but being able to transform your music to fit inside building these confident tools with kids.
Totally. Yeah. And what you say about adolescence, it's interesting because when I started, I thought, okay, I was bullied in middle school. I should be trying to go into middle schools, but elementary schools have been really receptive to it. And then preschools, blew my mind, but it's never too early. We need to start talking to our kids about how to talk to themselves and how to have healthier minds, because the voice in your head can be really nasty and really mean if you don't train it, through how your parents talk to you. There are so many different ways to inform that voice to be kinder and more respectful to yourself and to others. But it's a skill that we can learn.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, preschools, because they're still little, but
Yeah.
being
little.
able to mold. I know that that maturation period between 1 and 7, we
Mhm.
learn the most information out of any point in our lives. And
Totally.
so it's really that great place to insert any tools, because they're just absorbing. That's all they're doing, is absorbing. And if you have
Totally.
positive things inside that time
Mhm.
frame versus potentially like trauma or
Yeah.
abuse or negative
Yeah.
type of coping skills, then that's what translates later in life. So that's really cool that even preschools are having you come in and share.
Yeah. And it's funny, they said preschools, and I was like, oh, cool, like 4, even though my daughter is 3 and she's in preschool. So I should have known better, because it starts from like potty training and up at her preschool. But like, there were 18-month-year-olds at this show that I did in LA recently, and they were trying to like crawl onto the stage, and it was like a great rock pop concert, like the crowd was unruly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but you adapt, and then I put on a higher energy song and got out the instruments so they could be more involved. So it's been a lot of adapting
Right.
to my audience. Yeah.
That is, I mean, music translates, I feel like, across every, and even, I mean, even those that are deaf, they can still feel
Mhm.
the rhythm and feel
Yeah.
the music. And I think that's really, really cool to be able to have that platform,
Yeah.
and well enough to get out the
Mhm.
instruments to be able
Yeah.
to have them play too.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually talking to a deaf school trying to figure out how we could make it work. So hopefully that's on the horizon. But, I can have a sign language interpreter. I have the kids on the instruments and they can feel the rhythm. There's so many different cool ways that it can work. So that's hopefully on the horizon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what got you? I know you said that you've been singing for years, more so professionally the last 5 years.
Mhm.
What was that moment? Was it like when you were younger with
Yeah.
music, or what brought you to music?
Yeah, music was always what I wanted to do, what I was doing. I was always that singer girl in school, but professionally, I wanted to be on Broadway forever. And then I kind of, started taking steps and got to Off-Broadway and was like, this isn't the right place for me, actually, because it just didn't feel like a fit. And through a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, figuring out what fit better. But when I really got clear about, we have this one life, we might have more, I don't know, but this is the one I have. And there are people out there living our dream lives. And why not us? I think that's like my favorite phrase to get past imposter syndrome. Why not me? I think people will attach a lot of meaning and a lot of explanations as to, okay, maybe it's because, well, that person has my life because they're skinny or they're pretty or they were born into a family. And like, that person does not feel that way. That person is thinking of all the things that they have that they don't want or that other people have, So believing in it being possible, and then realizing the only thing that separates us is really experience and skills, and those are things we can build on and improve. So taking those action steps towards the life I wanted was pop music. And so then I started taking the wheel myself and realizing that I could write songs. I'm trying to make this story shorter, really.
You're good.
Well, because in the beginning of working in pop music, I didn't think I was a songwriter, even though I was always journaling and always writing was my thing in school too. I never put music and writing together to think that I was a songwriter, and I would let other people take the wheel. And then I was making a lot of music that just didn't feel like me. So I often say, like, I felt like a singer for 30 years without a song to sing or not realizing what I should sing. And then I started writing and taking the wheel myself. And then it was like the path became illuminated and clear in front of me, and scholarships and serendipities and all these amazing people came into my life too. And then once I became a songwriter, it became very clear that this was what I wanted to do and I got to do it, but it doesn't, like, I like to be very clear. It doesn't mean every day is easy. Yesterday I was probably in the middle of a panic attack, but now I have the tools to reach for, and it's not like fake it till you make it. Like, when you have the tools to help your mental health, use them, they're there.
Yeah.
So it's part of what I teach the kids. It's not tricks and it's not faking it until you make it. It's really believing it by using those tools.
Yeah, I think that saying is kind of interesting because I've always heard it, right? The fake it till you make it. And it feels like sometimes when you, yeah. Sometimes when you feel or you're doing that, you're like, I feel really inauthentic. But if you translate it into the brain and how powerful our brain actually is, it's really stepping into what you want to have, right? Because if we're focused on the positives versus the negatives, then our brain's naturally going to go towards those positives and veer away from the negatives. So it is an interesting saying. And I know in the past I've always thought I was really authentic when I was trying to do that, but now that I know a lot more about the brain, I'm like, that actually makes sense.
Because it's hard to trick yourself, right? And like, I learned there's a tool where if you put your finger here and you like try to hold it up, it'll trick your brain into thinking that you're smiling, and it does then elicit those serotonin and dopamine that help you feel happier. But I feel like somewhere deep down in you, you're like, but I'm faking this, So it is maybe doing it repeatedly over and over again to finally get the right thoughts in there. Cause it's really it. What do we tell ourselves about ourselves? Because my mind used to be a very unkind place. And naturally, I didn't want to spend time with my own thoughts. Who would? They were mean, So I never wanted to be alone with my own thoughts. I would put on TV or radio or anything in order to not be in silence. Silence was not a fun place to be. But now that I'm nicer to myself and I'm, figuring out song lyrics up there and I'm thinking of ideas, and that's where I feel like in the silence is the creativity.
Yeah. I'm just now learning how to get into that silence, but it can be a powerful place. And especially when we're talking about youth, oftentimes they're not sure how to do that, especially I mean today with all the technology. And I recently just had a conversation with my guest on Monday too. We were talking about technology and how it affects our brain and youth and all of those things too, but we don't allow enough space for nothing.
And entertainment's great, right? Like, I love entertainment. I'm in entertainment. That's what I do. But I think, I was reaching for podcasts or I was reaching for TV shows, like caring more about what those people would say than what I thought, or maybe letting, the ideas come in. That's where the creativity comes in. That's where all my best ideas have come in, when I let myself have that silence. I remember the guy who created Chicken Soup for the Soul. He found that idea in the shower. It was a $1 billion idea or $1 million idea. So when we have that silence, that's when the good ideas come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know, again, we have chatted about this, but music has just been one of those things my whole entire life, because my mom was a music teacher and I love to dance, and I was in the choir, and like music was just that thing. And I really, as I got older, really understood the power of music. I mean, I can go through my playlist and see those moments, like when I was having bad moments, or when I was like in an angry phase or a happy phase, or and it's fun to kind of put them on random, and it triggers like those memories of wherever you were. So it can be really, really powerful. Absolutely.
Totally. It's such a great memorization tool, which is why, I'm trying to give them positive, empowering music. Because then, I mean, I remember the song from when I was 5 years old, the Erie Canal song that I had to sing at school, as much as I might not want to remember it anymore. So hopefully getting positive, empowering songs in them is going to help them think more healthily, Because unfortunately, my Erie Canal knowledge is not tested often, but my thoughts have been with me every single moment of every single day since, I was born. So it's so important to get it in there in the right way.
Yeah.
these
Definitely.
kids, you know? And have you heard of this organization called Stand for the Silent?
I have, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
talked to the creator of them. Yeah, I want to talk to you more about that. I talked to Kirk, who created it, the other day, and I mean, I thought, yeah, I was helping people get through bullying, but it's also helping people turn away from death by suicide. Like, the worst case scenario is that kids don't keep going and they get so bullied that then they decide to end their lives, you know? And every show that I have, I'm like, if you take one thing away, I don't care if you remember the songs or remember my name, it's just keep going. Please keep going. Because, and it used to be, I would say, like, because any day your life can change. You can get a phone call, you can meet someone, but that's like putting the control outside of ourselves. So now I'm like, you can change your life. You can decide to take action and make yourself happy and all those things, you know? I'm just like, I don't know. We were just sitting there on that call, like, what are the answers? How do we help the babies, you know? And I know you work in that too. And I'm just trying to tell them anything that will possibly help them and never hurt them and to keep them away from pain, which is impossible, right? But I don't know. What do we do? How do we help the kids?
No, I mean, yeah,
You're trying to do it, I'm trying to do it. Yeah.
yeah, the thought that popped into my head as you were talking about that is because one of the very first, so when I first started my nonprofit, one of the very first mental health first aid classes that we had a mom and a grandma who had just lost their 9-year-old to a completed suicide.
Oh,
And yeah, that moment I knew that it was getting younger and younger. And I had the conversation with her, and she had asked her older girls, how did he know? And they had mentioned, like, you could go and Google it. And they're like, we've known now. Thank goodness Google has put in a lot of precautions in place. Like, you can't Google it anymore. It won't take you to the negative sites. It actually takes
mm,
you to the National Suicide Hotline, and then it gives
wow.
you all the videos of how to prevent versus how to
Wow.
do.
That's
So
good.
Google is getting a lot better with that. Similar with eating disorders, you can't
Uh,
find like how to do it as much anymore. They're
uh,
really trying to like remove that content from at least like the first 10 pages.
wow.
And so there's a lot of external things that are happening, but yeah, ultimately I think, like you said, and knowing a little bit more information about the brain, about maturation periods, how we
Yeah.
grow, and how we can insert those positive things into those times
Yeah.
can help. But I know, and I'm sure you do this. I know when I talk to my son, I'm like, just be kind to anyone. If you see them being bullied, say
Yeah.
something. If you're being bullied, say
Yeah.
something. Like, stand up for yourself. And I
Right.
know one of your songs is stand up.
Thank
Um, so yeah, it's like, stand up for yourself, stand up for others. And if they're not being nice and you
Mm,
can't resolve it on your own, because of course we want to teach them how to resolve things on their own and not always go and tell. But
yeah.
if you can't do that, then go talk to a teacher.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one important thing that I've found, at least through all my training in the last 6 years, is that like one trusted adult
Mhm.
can change the trajectory of a youth's life.
Yeah, it's so hard. You know, I'm working on this children's book now about a dog who gets bullied, and it didn't start out that way. It started, my dog is just like the most loving thing in the world, and she solves every problem with love. And I was like, that should be a book. And it just, the idea kept knocking, and then I finally followed it. And then one day I was like, no, Sadie needs to get bullied. That's what needs to happen in this book. And I was submitting it to an agent for consideration, and my husband and I were sitting on the phone because I was like, what do you do? Like, she gets bullied, and what's she supposed to do? And like, do you tell an authority? Well, yes, in most cases, an authority would be a good thing, because in our society, if something's really going wrong, the last scenario that we can go to is that we can call the police. You know, we can get law in order to hopefully work out the situation. But I've also heard of bullying in schools where people go to administrators, and then it makes the situation even worse. So it's just, what do we do? You know? So that's why, you know, we're all trying to do the best we can and help people. And we're just trying every day.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
no right answer. There's no black and white answer, right?
I don't think
Yeah.
there is
No.
necessarily. And that is kind of another uh thing, I guess, when I think about schools in general. But we're going to go to a really quick sponsored break. And then when we come back, we'll maybe dive in there. We'll see how that goes. But we'll talk about a few other things also and just really hear more about even your music with a message too. So we'll be right back after the sponsored break.
Of Own Your Wellness, and you can watch my show on Mondays and Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific on Achieve TV right here on E360 TV. Remember, there's more to health and wellness than broccoli and burpees.
And like that, we're back.
Hello. I like that. There's more to health and wellness than broccoli and burpees.
Right? It's awesome.
I really like that.
Well, if you happen to be joining us now, make sure if you are watching on YouTube, you click down that subscribe button, or if you're on any of the other TV platforms, make sure you add us into your favorites, watch or wish list or whatever they call it. I don't even know. I should probably find out. And also make sure you join us for any and all of the other episodes. But currently I am speaking with Caley Rose, and we are chatting about her experience with bullying at 10 years old, also her program Music with a Message, and how it's really helping our youth understand and get tools around confidence, and especially after being bullied, children or youth, really your confidence just drops. And so how do we rebuild that and or potentially prevent it with giving them proactive tools? So I know before we went to the sponsored break, we were kind of chatting a little bit about schools. What do we do after someone is bullied? And I know that I work with several organizations that really do hyper focus on bullying, which is amazing because it's a, I don't want to say epidemic, but it is, right? Like just like suicide. It's something that has been around for, I want to say forever, right? It's just that mentality. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a mentality, but it's just something that happens. And so how do we either change it? How do we have these conversations with our youth, with our friends when it happens, and implement like Music with a Message into the schools? Yeah. And so I don't know. And I know you had asked the question before we went to break, like, what do we do?
What do we do? A million things. And, there's not one thing that we can do. And so, but I think working on the problem, sorry, I found like a teeny tiny bug on my arm, and I'm like, that wasn't a tick, was it?
Oh no.
And I like brushed it off, and now it's sitting on the piece of paper in front of me. I just want to call out that happened.
Great. Yeah, that's okay.
It wasn't embedded in my skin, so we're good. Yeah. But yeah, it's not one thing, it's a million things, and it's before, during, and after. So I am a singer and a songwriter. If anybody's now just joining us, I am not a mental health professional, but I have consulted with a lot of mental health professionals on how to bring this program into schools and give kids the best possible way of working on their confidence and building it back up after being bullied. Because in the beginning, I had a lot of imposter complex because I was like, I'm not a mental health professional. Can I even be doing this? But kids listen to pop music artists. It's just how it's always worked, right? So I get to be a vehicle and a vessel for these tools and help in every way I can. And it's a million different ways. Oh, and then the Dr. Courtney Connolly, who I was talking, who you might know, she wrote this incredible book called Your Daughter Does Not Have to Be Depressed. And I might have butchered that title, but it's in the ballpark and it's incredible. And she was saying, as long as they're talking to someone, you know, like the parent, we don't have to have an ego about it. As long as that someone is, you know, trustworthy and a good person and they're talking to someone, that's a helpful thing. Because my little brother is 15 and I do this work in schools. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, but am I helping him? Like the one 15-year-old that I am the closest to. But as long as he's talking to someone and he's getting it through osmosis, whether he claims that he's ignoring me or not, you know, he hears what I have to say about confidence and positive thinking. And I hope that he's getting it as much as possible, you know?
Yeah.
We're all doing our best on this planet.
Oh, yeah. And that is, I mean, it's definitely, what I always talk about is we're really just planting seeds. We're letting them know that we're here when they need us, if they need us. But the other thing, kind of like you said, is that as the parent, you're probably not going to be that person because you're their parent. But if you instill in them that they can talk to you about anything and that you're not going to get upset or worried, whatever comes out of their mouth, which is really hard as a parent, of course. But if you really start to instill that in them at a young age, it makes it easier for them to come to us. But like you said, as long as they have one person that they are talking to, and it could be a friend, it could be a friend's parents, it could be a teacher, it could be a neighbor, somebody else that they trust, as long as they do have one person that they're talking to, that can be really beneficial in a youth's life. And again, we may or may not be that person, and that's okay, but we're just merely planting those seeds to let them know that we're here if they need us.
Totally. Yeah. Because she said, you know, often kids don't want to tell their parents because they don't want to worry them. They know that what they're holding onto is really heavy. And so my little brother, one time he said to me, like, you know, I have really dark thoughts, like really dark. And I was just like dying to know what they were. But like, I was just like, okay, well, what I can tell you is we all have those thoughts, like really dark. And it's the people who don't act on them that are still good people, you know, and still doing things to help humanity. So normalizing it, you know, I think he said it helped. I hope it did. But also I see like my 3-year-old, she's 3 and she's hiding things from me because she knows that what she's doing is wrong. So we'll come in the room and she'll be like, I don't have books in bed with me. We're like, we know you have books in bed with you. But she knows to lie because she knows the consequences. So they're so smart. And so, yeah, if my 15-year-old brother's going through something, he probably won't tell his family because he doesn't want to worry us. But as long as they're talking to someone, that was really helpful for me to hear. And that's why you and I are doing the work that we're doing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm curious. So going back like to you at 10 years old when you were being bullied, have you thought about that? Like what would have benefited you in those moments?
Yeah. And, you know, my mom tried to do the best she could. You know, she talked to administrators at school and she talked to other parents. And then like most of the, like all of the girls except for one, were very sorry. And we became friends to this day. But one of them in particular, she was clearly the ringleader and just like kept coming for me. And I don't know what more my mom could have done, you know, because she really tried. But you know, looking back, probably getting me talking to someone, you know, because back then therapy wasn't as accepted as it is now. And it was more thought of as, oh, something is wrong. And like, well, something was wrong, but it doesn't have to be, you know, we all need a little boost and a checkup, and we go to doctors for our hearts and our lungs and our bodies. And what about this incredibly powerful, powerful mechanism that is our brain? You know, that's what it is, a doctor for your brain. And that controls everything and controls our bodies. So I don't know why that social stigma, you know, was placed on therapy and self-wellness, but I'm glad that it is getting better, you know, and new generations, the more we learn, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, there are a lot more counselors, therapists, psychologists, alternative coaches. There's lots and lots of people out there that can help. There's peer specialists now, which I think is really, really cool. And they have those, or are starting to put them into schools, teaching youth how to be peer-to-peer support for each other. And I think that's really, really important. But then also like inserting your program to Music with a Message into the schools, because it's, I love when we first started talking, and because it's such an alternative way. It's not like I'm going to build a curriculum, put it into schools. It's like you go out and you sing and you include them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we also are creating a curriculum for Music with a Message to bring confidence into schools for the whole year. But the assembly, I mean, it's like a fun differentiation from the norm. And we make it really fun. So it's this memorable, fresh piece of their day that also gets those tools in there. You know, I had an awesome testimonial say it's like a Taylor Swift concert that's also empowering you, you know? So kids, we have to learn something sometimes a million times before it sinks in, or one particular way before it sinks in. You know, they might have kids like paint the letter A and then draw it with crayon and say it, and, you know, so many different methods. So let's try all the methods because we want to help all the kids.
Yeah. You never know what's going to relate to them. And that goes back to, I think, like, excuse me, like personality styles, right? Like we have the people like myself that are kinesthetic, and I love the touchy feely. That's why I love music. And
yeah, you would love the hand percussion that I bring.
Yeah. Yes. And then you have those people that are more data. They want the data. They want the actual facts. And there's all different types of personalities. So yeah, I think that we have to be able to adapt and shift. And that's why some kids don't learn as much as others in school. So
yeah. And that's another thing, like when I have the last song that I perform is Game Over, and kids love dancing to that because it's about video games and kids love video games. And so we have a big dance party, but I also have to tell the kids who don't feel comfortable dancing, like, you're making a confident choice. Confidence is believing in yourself and your decisions. And so if you don't feel like dancing, it's not just that the like people who are doing this and seemingly outgoing are confident. You're confident, you know, so good for you for making that decision. So that's interesting, you know, because I think we have this perception of like, oh, the confident person is this, but also how we hold our bodies and how we use our voices is conveying confidence and helps us feel confident, right? Power poses. Harvard study said that it works for a reason.
That's my favorite, is the superhero pose. Yes.
Yeah. And so I have a song where I have kids doing this and pounding on their chest and all these fun things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I know, like, we were kind of also talking about how you really shifted your style of music. So can you talk a little bit about that also?
Yeah. Oh, and also I want to say, Kelly and I, you know, for anyone watching, we were talking about teaming up because I'm coming into the Denver Boulder. I can go anywhere in Colorado in my mind, but then I realized that places are 4 hours away. I'm like, oh yeah. But yeah, we were talking about teaming up and coming into schools. So we can do that at any time. Kelly can get on a plane just like I can get on a plane, and we can team up, which would be awesome. Yeah, but the different styles of music, I felt like a singer who didn't know what the heck to sing for a long time. I was trained in opera and classical, and then school led me on a path to musical theater, and I thought that that was my dream, but it just didn't feel like the right place. It just didn't feel like I thought it would. You know, I think so often we think this is going to be the ticket, this is the key, and then reality looks a little different. And so that was a shift. And I read the book The Secret, which people think, you know, some people love, some people don't, which is polarizing. But I think it helps you ask important questions like, this is your life, you know, you might think we get more, but this is where we are now. So this is your one life for now. And what do you want to do with it? Because people are living your dream life. So why not you? You know, we're all bones and cells and eyes and hearts. And I think we make a lot of, not excuses, but we tell ourselves stories about why someone else might be where they are, if that's where we want to be. And it's experience, it's studying and getting educated. It's not, you know, no one came out of the womb as a warrior, right? They worked to it. And my favorite quote recently was from a children's book. And it was like, what's the difference between a winner and a loser? The winner got back up. You know, like you climbed a mountain how many times? You know, it's incredible. That's the only difference. So we all got to get back up. I keep thinking about that bug on my arm. Can you tell?
You're
like, I can't wait to get a magnifying glass. Like, what?
Like live TV, it happens.
Yeah,
We're fine.
live.
Right? Yeah. No, I love that. I do love that saying too, is because if you think about a toddler, right? They continually fall down and then they get right back up. They fall down, get right back up. We all do that.
Yeah.
And at a point in our life, I feel like we forget that that's part of us. And so how do we go back to being a toddler? How do we go back to that play of, I can get up, I might fall down, but I'm going to get back up again and do it over and over and over and over. And that message, I know most recently for me within the last year, was something that I was like, oh yeah. And I had a mentor say, everybody is resilient. You don't have to build your resilience. You don't have to learn how to be resilient. You are resilient, because as we were born resilient, we came out of the womb.
I love that. I'll write that one down.
Yeah, because we did. I mean, we were born. We were born resilient. Yeah, we went through the toddler stage that we fell down, got back up, fell down, got back up. We learned how to walk. We learned how to eat. We learned all these things, and that is our proof that we are resilient.
Totally. And when we fell down as a toddler, nobody said to us, well, you're stupid, you should probably stop, or like, well, you're not athletic, you know. But then we go throughout our lives, people might tell us things like, oh, you're not very good at multitasking, or oh, you're really messy. And then it becomes the story that we tell ourselves. So then what happens when we make a mistake? We say, oh, well, it's because I'm stupid or dumb, or blah, 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 blah. You know, that awful, awful fear voice that's just trying to protect us. When the toddler fell down, did her internal monologue say, well, you are not athletic, so you should not bother getting back up? No. And mistakes are how we learn best, you know? That's scientifically proven. It's so funny to me because, like, the thing that we're always trying to protect ourselves from is making mistakes. And then when we do, that becomes the one story that we tell about our vacation. You know, I'm telling everyone how I missed that train in Spain and we had to get a hotel room. And that's the funny story. Or like our wedding. That's the funny story, not how perfect everything. No one cares about how perfect everything was. No one wants to hear what color cutlery I chose, you know? They want to hear about the bad stuff, like what the DJ said, you know? He's fine. He's since apologized.
Right. No, I think that is, I mean, not similar story, but in middle school, like 7th grade, that was the year that I call the mean girls. And I mean, I had big ginormous glasses because that's how they were back in the day.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. And I was not part of, well, I mean, I thought I had, like, one of my friends, I moved from elementary to middle school with her. Well, it was 6th grade. And then she ended up, as I talk about it, as she turned her back on me that year. And I ultimately just ended up moving schools the next year because I wanted to be out of that group. But it's one of those things that I oftentimes talk to people about middle school, and I'm like, how was your middle school experience? And a lot of them have a very similar story. And I think it's so much more common, and it's getting so much younger now.
Yeah. And let's be very clear. I was not perfect. You know, I got bullied and then I turned around and bullied someone else. And I ditched this girl I was friends with to be friends with the popular. Like, I was making all the mistakes. But so, like, let's be very clear. But that's terrible because so many of us will get bullied and then turn around and bully, you know? So I'm glad that that's not part of your story. You're better.
Well, I mean, I know that it in a way it is. I wasn't always kind to people, right? Like, I think of those people, and now of course with social media, you like connect with a lot of people and you're like, man, I don't think I was very nice to you. And as an adult, and it's not intentional. I think it's learned behavior. And I think that having those conversations with youth now as soon as possible to let them know how they can overcome and or not be that person is really important. So that's why I believe wholeheartedly that what you're doing is incredible, and how your music aligns with giving the words, right? And it's all subconscious, which is, I think, is even cooler, because that's how music affects us, is it's unconsciously recognized with the words. And that's when some of the sayings that I've heard is when you're sad, you understand the music, and when you're happy, you just listen to it.
That's so true. That's a really good, I should use that as a marketing point. You know what I mean? I'm working on the subconscious as well as the conscious level. Because so often we'll be like, you know, vibing along with a song, and then we'll be like, oh, years later, we can realize what the lyrics mean. But it'll work on the subconscious. If I'm saying I am strong, I am confident, I am powerful, I can do hard things in the songs that I'm singing. So that's so important. Wow, I'm learning so much today.
Yay, see? I know, every single show we just learned it. And giving this back to even the audience, those of you that maybe have a son, a daughter, a child that they may be experiencing bullying, or you are a teacher, or, you know, work with youth, whomever it is. There are certain ways to be able, like the words that we say are really, really powerful too. And I know, like, we have talked about that too, are the words that we say ourselves. A lot of it does come from external things, and it's, well, you're not good at, or I hate those things. Like, as a parent, I'm like, don't tell my child that he's not good at XYZ, because they internalize that. And then they're like, well, I'm not good at that. Or fears and phobias are very similar too, of like, if I'm petrified of snakes, which I'm not, I always say, we're not scared of anything. That's what I try to say to my son is, we're not scared of anything. But they oftentimes absorb the fears of whomever they're around the most. And how can we shift the language that we even use as we're having conversations with kids or youth, any youth around us?
Two things with that. I am trying so hard not to give my daughter the fear of cockroaches that I have. And two, I love what you said about, no, we are not afraid of anything. And like the stories that we tell other people and how we then internalize them, especially from our parents. You know, if your parent says you're not good at something, you're just going to be like, cool, I'm not. I trust that person. They're great to me all the time. They probably didn't even mean it, but I am now telling myself that story for the rest of my life. So I've started adopting, I'm not good at that yet, but I'm working on it. Even just a little yet. I'm not good at that yet introduces this possibility of like, oh, but if I work at soccer, I can get better at soccer. You know, instead of saying, oh, I'm not athletic, like, no, we can do anything we work hard at. Truly, truly, truly. I might not get to pro level, but like, is that my goal? No, whatever. I'm not good at that yet, or I'm working on it, I think is so important. Don't tell someone who they are, you know, let them tell you. Oh gosh, I felt things.
I love that. I'm not good at that yet. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know where I got that. Wherever I got that, I'm crediting you. So thank you. You know, it's like, did I get that from somewhere? Probably freaking TikTok, right? Everything's from TikTok.
Right.
And therefore it's all true.
Right. Yeah.
You can believe everything you see on TikTok. Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Or probably ever, really, in that case. But
ever. Everyone's an expert now.
So if I want you to share a little bit more detail in the final time that we have, more about music with a message, and specifically if a school, it could be a church or maybe a youth group or anybody that works with youth in general, like give us a little bit more information about what that looks like.
Yeah, I did a virtual kids camp the other day, so that was fun. So it can be virtual or in person. It's a school assembly. It's ranged from 20 minutes to an hour. Every situation is different. And I love customizing it for the group that I'm working in. Like, so I come in, I tell my story about being bullied, and I share my three tools to getting to build your own confidence. And I call them my WOW principles. So there's another W for you. And the first one is wear your affirmation capes. So we talk about positive thinking. And I talk about how superhero capes protect us from the self-esteem invaders, because that's what bullies are. They're trying to get you to believe something about yourself that is negative. But we can't affirmations are not enough, according to new psychological research. So the third W is writing down your wins. So if we have a list of all of these brave acts that we have done, trying to tie our shoes, being kind to someone, and so many brave acts that kids are doing every single day, writing down those wins and reflecting upon them, and then maybe having future wins. We talk about how having goals also builds your confidence. Everything is building your confidence. And then the O of the WOW is you are the one and only you, and owning that. So being your unique self and all of that stuff. And I have a song for each portion of the program and a couple extra for fun. And I bring kids up to play hand percussion instruments, and I get them dancing and singing and shouting things out. And then after my song Stand Up, we talk about when is a good time to stand up for yourself or others. And that is always my favorite, because it's a part that happened accidentally. And all of a sudden the microphone was going all around the room and everyone was talking about standing up for yourself and times that they did it and times it's important to do it. And it brought me to tears. So now that's become a portion of every single assembly, which is so beautiful. And we can do workout groups and smaller groups. I originally did envision it just for young women because I was a young woman who got bullied, but most schools tend to want to do a school-wide assembly. LGBTQ is another. I've seen those students coming forward and talking to me, so we can do small groups with that. But yeah, every school, I kind of customize it based on what they're working on, leadership, or another school wanted to learn songwriting. So I was like, this is a challenge. Okay, how am I going to weave these two things together? But it was beautiful and it worked out. And I had kids on ukuleles doing the ukulele. I'm trying to say that properly. Can you tell? And it's really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you customize it too based off of whatever the school is looking for, because I believe that, I mean, it can be helpful in any school across the world, but also every single school is trying to accomplish different things, and their challenges may be very different from another school. So that's really awesome that you're customizing it.
Totally. And yeah, I'm like, how can I get it into schools in other languages? You know, so I have my like power poses, and there are different things we can do, but that's my eventual goal. The whole world. I want to empower every single human on earth. Yeah. That's my goal.
Heck yeah. I know. But starting right here for now and then expanding, right?
Yeah, totally.
Growing.
And you're doing it too.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, when you and I again first started talking, I was like, wow, this is so cool. And how cool would it be to tag team and partner up and be able to, because I have also been getting into and trying to get into a lot more schools just in general about mental health and connecting it to music somehow, somewhere, because of my background in music and the love for it. And that's why when we started chatting, I was like, yes, let's figure something out. I don't know what it looks like, but let's figure it out.
And someday, you know, I'm talking to some people about like licensing the music and maybe having like music with a message as an umbrella. And then if I can't be in Detroit on Monday at 4, I have a music with a message trainer who can be, you know, so using the music in that way. Big eventual goal. So you could be singing again.
Hey, come on.
Are you singing now? No. Yeah. Were you when your mom was a music teacher?
For you.
Huh? Yeah. I said, were you singing when your mom was a music teacher?
I did. I was in choir, and then actually, I mean, the funny story, I don't know if it's funny, but it was when I got into, I think 7th or 8th grade, and I tried out for the choir and I didn't get into it. And that was my moment of like, I'm done. And then going into high school, I tried to go into like musical theater, and I got rejected, and I was like, all right, I'm done. And my path went a different way, and that's okay.
See? See?
Yeah.
I was just, Carrie Rowan from the group.
Mhm.
Yeah, we were just talking about, and she was like, well, in high school, it's not cool. And I was like, oh, yeah, but I was still the singer girl.
Right.
But I kind of get what you mean. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Every high school is different. I think
Oh,
I
yeah.
knew popular girls who sang. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we should
We
never.
had, I mean, I know I told you this, but
Yeah.
we had lots of people from our school that were in musical theater and they were in theater in general, and now they're on Broadway. So
Yeah.
you never know. Like we have lots of people from my high school in Colorado that are now on Broadway or have been on Broadway or are very much in the music theater
That's so cool.
space still. And my mom,
if anyone would ever say the singer is not cool, like, look at Beyonce. Come on, tell me
Yeah.
that she's not cool.
right?
Look at Taylor, and I
T
could name a
Swift,
million
come on.
names now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at me. I should be saying in a confident way, right? Boom. There we go. Look at Kelli.
Yes. No, that's what my mom, because my mom was the music teacher for several of my friends. And so she likes to attribute it to, she's like, well, they were in my class. And I was like, yes, of course. So, anything else that you want to share with the audience within the last couple of minutes that we have?
You can book music with a message by going to CaleyRose.com. CALEY, rose as in the flower. Oh, thank you. CALEY, rose as in the flower. And it's for adults and it's for kids. My music, I've been in women's shelters and I've been in schools. But the most important thing that I want to tell your audience is keep going. Any moment you can decide to change your life. Like I said, I used to say you could meet someone, you could get a phone call. Yes, that's all true, but you can decide to change your life. So keep going. You're one of the brave ones.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being my guest. This was awesome. I literally could talk to you for hours.
I know.
We'll talk more anyways.
I know. I'm so glad we know each other. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, that was another amazing episode of Make Mental Health Matter, where I talk to guests, especially on Wednesdays, who have that warrior story. They went through an experience within their life and really have moved into this place of hope. And it looks differently for everyone. And I hope that you are able to identify a little bit in the story that we talked about and how you as an adult, as a youth, or as a parent, as a teacher, whomever you may be coming in contact with, how you can talk to others in a way that will be positive and also talk to yourself in a positive way, and maybe intertwine a little bit of music in there because it actually scientifically helps with your unconscious mind. And oftentimes they say when you're sad, you really understand the lyrics. And when you're happy, you just listen to the music. So think about that. You never know. At least for me, I can only speak for myself. I know when I have those moments, music can be one of the most powerful things for me to listen to whether it's moving away from those sad moments, or maybe it's just those moments that I want to cry and I want to listen to that music and get all that feelings out. So either way, no matter what you do, make sure that you join me back next week for our next episode. Again, I go live every single Monday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time and 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Wednesdays. We are rolling into September, which is National Suicide Awareness Month. We are launching a ginormous campaign for Warriors for Mental Health, which is our monthly donor program. All of those funds go into education for mental health, including what Callie and I are doing. Some of those funds can go back to getting us into schools and having these messages shared. So go to bccevolution.org. Make sure you sign up or go sign up and become a warrior for mental health today. You'll see the big sign. I added it on there recently on our website, how you can sign up. And it's only a $20 donation or more per month. And all of those funds are rolled back into our programs, but we're specifically driving the force with our Education for Mental Health program currently with the launch of the Warrior for Mental Health campaign that we're doing all of the month of September for National Suicide Awareness Month. And one thing that I want to also leave you with is that I got a news article recently sent to me about the rates of suicide for youth, and they're actually going down, not significantly enough to affect the stats, but the rate of suicide, especially in Colorado for ages 10 to 18, is lower at this point. And so fingers crossed, all the things that we are doing is making a difference, and that is incredible. So with your support, we can make even more of a difference. So go sign up to become a warrior for mental health. Again, it's only with a $20 donation or more per month. And then make sure that you join me next week for another episode, and I'll see you there.